All right. So CK identity on chain. With the public nature of the data, which is where all the user interactions are available on chain, how can we bring in an element of privacy with the help of zero knowledge proof? That's the topic of today, and we have our esteemed guest here in order to take the conversation ahead. I will request each one of you to please briefly introduce yourself and add a little flavor in terms of what is a kind of an identity credential or a use case that excites you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm really glad all of you were able to make it as well. My name's Kyle. I am currently now CEO of Passport XYZ, which was formerly Gitcoin Passport. I'm one of Gitcoin's co-founders. I'm already drawing a blank on your question. I got so much excitement for the event. I think, real quick, the trend that we're most interested in, is that right? Okay. How many of you have seen the layer zero drop in the work that Brian's been doing in public on anti-Sybil? Wow, far fewer hands than I thought. You guys, okay, all right. How many of you feel like Brian's done a really good job of sort of changing the perception on the way farming Sybil has been inside of our ecosystem, like how acceptable that potentially is? Far fewer, okay. I will be the contrarian then. I feel like Brian has done a fantastic job at sort of illuminating how large the Sybil problem is and how important identities and understanding unique humanity is in the Web3 ecosystem. So we're glad to be able to partner with them, but also just to see a lot of the work that they're bringing forward, I suppose, is the best way to say that, to help bring identity and this concept of unique humanity, improvable unique humanity, to the rest of Web3.
Okay, nice. So yeah, I'm Florian. I'm the CEO of Synaps. So we provide KYC and KYB services for, we have worked with more than 700 clients in crypto. So I think you can say that we are really crypto experts regarding KYC, KYB. So we work with people like Gitcoin, for example, but also like Polygon, Starknet, and many others. I'm also the founder of Anima, which is a decentralized identity protocol focusing on Sybil attacks. And so we have a little different approach where we allow users to mint a soulbound token. And so at the moment, we have a bit over 150,000 people who actually minted a soulbound token to prove that they are unique on-chain. And regarding the best use case, I think for me, like the DAO thing is all about how you distribute the value. And so to see, rewards your stakeholders of the protocol. And I think that everything related to quadratic voting for me is a very exciting topic.
Hey everybody, so I'm Simon, blockchain ecosystem advisor at Consensys and co-founder of Verax. Verax is a on-chain attestation registry. It's the native registry for the Linea ZK EVM. I work with Linea, I work with the Verax team and various other ecosystem partners. So what use case excites me? There's a lot to choose from. I think right now what has me really giddy with excitement is the hyper interoperability that we're starting to see. Hyper connectivity, no walls, no barriers, just taking my data and bringing it everywhere, across boundaries, across chains, across formats and standards, across Web3 and outside of Web3. And that's why I'm really excited about the launch of Privado. Congratulations, by the way. And all of the integrations as well, especially the integration with Verax, which is very cool.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alessandro, head of growth at Transak. I'm super excited, first of all, to be here and partner with Privado for our product. And also, I think I'm really excited in general about self-sovereign identity. And today, I believe we're at a crossroad where wallets are starting to become a hub, not just for digital assets and tokens, but also they will become a hub for identity. And I believe this layer can open up to many use cases.
personally, I think we are ready for maybe something like voting, with digital identity, and I think it will be super important given that many people are not voting today. So that's, I think, a very important use case.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I think one of the key difference, where we see Web 2 is more like a black box or it's a closed ecosystem versus Web 3, which makes all the user interactions on chain and publicly available, right? I think this opens up a huge paradigm in terms of how user engagement could be defined. But when such information is publicly available, there is an element where the user privacy can be compromised. So I think a question to the panel here is, how do you see an addition of zero knowledge with the on-chain data, how it can benefit the users, what opportunities does it open? And question to all of you.
Yeah, maybe I'll dive in first. One of the things that's fantastic about just zero knowledge and the ability to abstract any sort of PII means you can build these really elegant systems that help confirm humanity without actually detailing who that person is or doxing any of those details. A lot of Passport's approach is much on like meta aggregator. We want to help people prove who they are through any sort of use case that they feel comfortable working through. We go through and encrypt a lot of the information that we make available, mostly just for deduplication purposes, to make sure that if you're verifying your Google account on lots of wallets, we can confirm you're actually still the same human, even if you want to try and represent yourself as across multiple wallets. But I think a lot of the allure is making sure that it's privacy preserving first, and that user has consent in the way that they're sharing those credentials. So I'm curious, I know that you guys do a lot more on the ZK side. If you sort of agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for me it's also the user experience. At the end of the day, yeah, being in crypto might be a bit troubling sometimes. You want to go on one app and you need to do KYC, you go on another platform, you need to go all over again. And I think there are like many platforms that would have been cool, but I was just too lazy to go on it and go through the onboarding. So streamlining this process to make it like super convenient for the users clearly can bring a lot of value.
Yeah, I guess from a purely business perspective, I guess what I should be saying is just put all your data on chain. Just put everything on chain as an attestation. Everything about yourself, just put it on chain, and your date of birth, your gender, your social security number. I guess that would be good from that would be good for Verax, but probably not very good for the ecosystem. I think we need to be very, very judicious and very selective about what we put on chain. I think that's very, very important. And so that, CKP and the way Privado uses it for selective disclosure is absolutely critical for doing that. And I think the benefit of that on aggregate is that users will become more comfortable with the specificity of data that they're putting on chain, feeling that they're in control, that they're disclosing exactly what they want to disclose and knowing what's out there and what's not. That increased level of comfort will actually, I think, will result in people putting more data on chain, but more intentional data of higher quality that consumers of the data can have more confidence in the long run. And that's why I think, ZK is absolutely critical. We can't do what we do without this sort of ZK identity and the various use cases of zero knowledge proofs.
Yeah, I think in general, I'm excited about the fact that identity on chain can really change how we behave online. I believe today, even in the EU, if they've done a lot of work, for example, with GDPR and trying to really protect the user in a way, we're still signing, as we access a website, we are giving away our consent for cookies and stuff like that. I think this is where I see this going, hopefully. I think we're at the crossroad where we're building something nice, still thinking maybe about these use cases that are very meta industry related, but I think we should think about, how I can own my data and everything that I give consent to should be a transaction, in my opinion. So if you have a wallet and you have a self-sovereign identity, and again, the EU is doing a lot of projects with Sandbox, like IOT, I think, got in, and a few other projects. And like I think if we really can build this, and Privado is doing a very good job, we can then at this point really provide the users with an experience when I know exactly what I'm giving consent to, and this could be on chain. So I think, as you said, we should put more data on chain, but we should put the right data, and we should own them, right? So we can say, okay, I'm disclosing here on this website, there is a request for my data, and I'm signing them. So in general, I think the transparency is really important, and we can achieve that.
Perfect. Sharing a little alpha for everyone out here, we have Privado ID has integrated a proof of uniqueness solution in the Verax POH. And I think there is a PR that would be out any moment now. Question to you, Simon. I think with POH, I think this is a great initiative where we are trying to see how we can bring in more human, right? And I think on this line, when Privado ID has integrated proof of uniqueness as the first step, where we are also trying to bring in the proof of uniqueness with the help of biometric, and we are going to talk about more. But what lies ahead in your roadmap where you are leveraging zero knowledge as well in order to bring in more privacy beyond POH?
Yeah, so it's zero knowledge, like CK technology is really critical to the roadmap of Verax. Like it's hard to overstate how critical it is. And I think what excites me about what the Privado integration is, like Verax is kind of cut from the same cloth as Privado in terms of like trying to be this nexus that connects various different issuers and sources of data with various different consumers. And so the integration with Verax is really exciting because Privado allows developers to really easily create reuse schemas, create schemas, issue credentials, and then bring them on chain as an attestation. And then from there, they can be consumed by index networks so that you can interact with them through an AI and natural language. You can use autonomous AI agents. You can bring them into Orbis DB, bring them into your SQL database. They show up on wallets. They show up on block explorers and stuff. So that interoperability is really important. But it doesn't mean anything if people don't have confidence in the data. And that's the fundamental axiom upon which like Verax is built. It's the quality of the data. And so ZKP allows people to have confidence in the integrity and authenticity of that data. And that's why we're working with you guys, with Privado ID, with people like ZK Pass and Reclaim Protocol as well, so that developers can just really easily now just take data from different sources, bring them on chain, and know that they're very easily accessible through a whole range of different resources. But again, without ZKP, it's just a bunch of data. People really need the confidence that underpins it, and that's where the ZKP stuff comes in. One other thing I would say in terms of the roadmap, especially with regard to privacy, we are thinking like at the moment we're at the start where we're seeing more and more issuers providing on-chain attestations. We do envisage that it's going to grow over time and probably grow quite significantly. I think that does pose a danger to privacy, even if you're trying to be really intentional about what you're selectively putting on chain. I think over time, it's going to be very difficult to really understand the amount of data that you're disclosing, and how that data can be correlated to reveal more information than you originally intended to reveal. So we are thinking about how we can use zero knowledge proof to put data on chain so that the entire ecosystem can benefit it, and it supports the common good, but in a way that also protects the privacy of users, so that the data itself is unlinked, but the user can still kind of prove control over the various attestations that they have. And I think that's the sort of role that zero knowledge proof will play in the long run.
Amazing. And I think I heard interoperability quite a few times from your perspective. And I'm sure that with so many ecosystem growing, as we heard in the intro part as well, with so many ecosystem growing, the user data and user identity may be fragmented, and how can bring that unified identity across the chains. And applicable in Web3, but even applicable in Web2. I think Open Finance and other initiatives are trying to do on the similar line. So thank you for that. I think connected point, Florian, to you. With the very interesting solution in terms of proof of humanity, proof of uniqueness, I think there are very interesting use cases that are coming out in the space. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more in terms of how you are seeing this in the space and what are the type of applications who are demanding this kind of proofs?
Yeah, for sure. I think first I'll do like a small mapping of what's the current situation. And then, so for me right now, the issue in crypto is that any users can create as many wallets as he wants. And, it's a feature. The issue with this is that it means that you can't trust any wallet. So by default, you have to assume that any wallet is a bad actor and that we are in this dark forest. And so by default, any actor interacting with your protocol is a potential scammer. And so you really need to design your protocol in a way that it's resilient to this kind of activities. And so the only way to do that is by focusing on the only source of truth. And this source of truth is actually the token that are inside your wallet. The only thing you can trust is the amount of token that are on the wallet and not who is behind it. And so it means that protocols can only exist if they are really like financially oriented. And so you create by design a very like capitalistic ecosystem where basically it's very capital centric and not really user centric. So the idea with bringing this proof of personhood, proof of humanity, is really to allow, to expand our industry. To say that right now the only thing we can do is 0% user-centric and 100% capital-centric, and how we can open the path toward like any intermediary up to 100% user-centric. So yeah, clearly in terms of use cases, I think quadratic voting is a very good one. Airdrops, I think we can say that if nothing is being done, airdrops are going to die very quickly, because now we are at a stage where people generate like 20,000, 50,000 wallets. And so you, as a genuine user, even if you feel that you're playing the game by creating 5 wallets and that, I received 5 times the airdrop, the reality is that, you get peanuts compared to these guys who industrialize the process. And if you think 10 seconds, like you're a project who actually want to launch a token, are you actually going to give a lot of your supply to these people who industrialize the process? Which means that you're in this very vicious cycle where projects are not really enthusiastic at giving a lot of tokens at launch, and this little amount of token is being dispatched between many bad actors that are just going to sell your token right away. So solving this is clearly like an important thing if we want to have the community being incentivized to help protocols. Then you have like many other stuff like GameFi, SocialFi. I think one of the most interesting approach from my point of view, I think that now in crypto, many protocols are faking their data. And so as a VC, when you want to do your due diligence to decide, like, should I invest in this project or in this one, you don't know. Even if I give you credible, amazing data that shows a lot of traction, am I actually bullshitting you, or is it true, honest data? So I think by implementing this proof of personhood and all, actually, we could take this path where VCs become the actor while pushing for the solution, because they want to be sure that they invest in the right project. And I think at the end, it would benefit the retail, because what VCs can't know, clearly the retail can't know either. So yeah, I think it could help to remove a lot of bad actors in the space who are basically just faking the data. Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm sure that with airdrop, everybody's eyes lights up. And I think there are solutions which want to do more genuine reward distribution, but then there are use cases where they are welcoming bot. However, we want to bring more human into the Web3 ecosystems, and this solution certainly helps. Maybe Ali, the next question to you. I know 2 weeks back, we have announced the integration in terms of how Privado ID and Transak are going to be bringing in reusable KYC. Would you like to share a little bit more? KYC has been a complex space, but I think bringing in reusability to a credential certainly brings down the verification cost. It also improves the user experience substantially. What is the way forward? What are you looking in terms of seeing this space, and how do you want it to see in Transact bringing out other types of credential as well in the reusable format?
Yeah, I think for us, in general, KYC has always been a focus because we deal maybe as opposed to other more like crypto native projects, we deal with like all real users and everyone has to KYC to use on and off ramp. So we have been looking for solutions to share KYC either with the project itself if they're doing it and maybe they're like more centralized or they have a specific use case, or like with other providers. And like some players like SumSub, for example, like a more traditional KYC provider, they have this feature where you can reuse the KYC, right? So this has been talked about for a while. But now, obviously, we are in the space, so we wanted to really invest in something that uses great technology like zero knowledge proof and puts the data on chain. So I think I see a great future to make it more accessible for the users on one end. Like I can verify my identity, and then we work with more than 400 apps active on a monthly basis. So you can go and use for now for the on ramp. Like if you have used, I don't know, Transak on MetaMask, then tomorrow use it somewhere else. Like you don't have to KYC again. But also this activates, this decentralized ID can be used, for example, by projects that want to do airdrop. Like all of our users are real. Like we have to verify them. You have to do a face scan. Like you have to upload your ID depending on where you sit and which limits you want. And all these users are completely real. Like you cannot have two accounts, for example. So I see in the future players like us that sit like really at the beginning of your journey that can be leveraged, perhaps, to really have real users in the space. Then really, like I think the way this product is going to be used is up to the fantasy also of these projects. Like you can use it, to verify, your age or tomorrow for something else. I think we're at the beginning, but we wanted to provide this tool openly, and obviously the user consent is also important, right? Like I consent that I have my data there, so that then what? Like we don't know yet, but I think it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Fantastic. Any other form of credential that you feel excited about outside of KYC that Transak is willing to venture in?
I mean, we have been also exploring loyalties. I think it's also important. Like we want to incentivize that, so that can be a form of credential. Like, but it can also be tied to your ID. Like if your ID is private and encrypted, like it's just a layer on top of that. So I think it's really important to have some sort of base of a soulbound, and then on top of that you can issue like how many NFTs and credentials that you want. But yeah, like for sure loyalty is one. Like and really building like maybe growth type of loops on top of that.
Amazing. And I think once the user have a reusable KYC, there can be many attributes that can be also repurposed, like age, gender, residency. So I think it's going to be opening up a lot of credential liquidity in a way.
For example, like one very quick use case as well is like geofencing. Like maybe you cannot sell a specific token somewhere, and you can easily verify, okay, these users in as a US passport. Okay, they can't use it. Like or like AVR for institutionals. Like maybe you have a credential for like accredited investors, for example. It's like very useful.
Makes sense. Kanal, to you, I think Gitcoin passport has been there in the space for quite some time. There are very interesting credentials that are out on passport, whether it is reading from the on-chain data or whether it is bringing in the Web2 social data like Twitter followers and others. How are you seeing the changing user behavior? Are you seeing where there is a trend where users want to enable some kind of a privacy feature when this information is being exchanged with the applications and how applications consume this information?
Yeah, great question. This is almost like a hold my beer moment. I'm getting excited just thinking about how this has changed. So there's maybe two parts to this. One is user behavior and one is user expectations. User expectations, I think, have certainly evolved to why do I have to KYC? Like, aren't we a privacy preserving community? Why do you have to know who I am? There was a fair amount of work that was done going all the way back to the 80s, whenever first voter registrations were moved or being considered moving online. There's kind of four key ways that you can verify humanity in an online world. There's more, arguably, but this research showcased four. KYC, which is great if you trust the government agency. Biometrics, if you're comfortable having your iris or palm scanned. In-person verification. So in early days, governments will go through and you dip your thumb in ink whenever you vote. And the fourth is like social or web of trust. So if Ravi says that Kyle's a real human and you all trust Ravi, then I can trust that Kyle's a real human as well. And so in Passport's approach, we've tried to build out a system that lets people verify across all four of those mechanisms. User behavior started out, when we first started this, very, very Web2 centric. I want to verify LinkedIn. I want to verify my Discord. I want to verify Google, whatever else. What we found after running through these systems and analysis is that those are very easy to spoof. So we have this concept internally that we call a cost of forgery. How expensive is it for a passport to be forged? Buying even Coinbase's KYC, which is arguably one of the top standards in the industry right now, is still roughly $25. Buying a Binance KYC can happen for less than $15. Even buying WorldCoin's ID, like, you can do that for less than $50 right now. So in our perspective, we are constantly trying to balance what's an appropriate cost of forgery that we feel comfortable with versus the user's expectations on, generally speaking, we want to make sure that 80% of our user base can verify humanity within 5 minutes of on our platform. And that's working with a lot of really great providers to make sure that if they feel comfortable doing liveness checks, if they feel comfortable doing KYC, if they have really strong GitHub history. The place that we've really moved more towards is the behavior side. So user behavior is what has evolved immensely on chain. If you think about 3 or 4 years ago, L2s were very, very nascent, right? Everything was very expensive to interact with on chain, which one created a very high cost of forgery, which was fantastic, but it meant that you saw very little on-chain interactions in verifying unique humans. Now, user behavior has shifted quite a lot to be lots of transactions across lots of layer twos. So we go through and sort of review a lot of that activity so that this cost of forgery is both high because of time investment, but user action required is very low because we can scan wallet addresses to quickly see, do we believe this is a real human or not based on that transaction history? So full circle back to your question, I guess not only has sort of behavior changed, but their expectations, which is this should be lightning fast. I have done this in lots of other places. Why do I have to do this again? I think has also evolved.
Brilliant. So I think just reaching towards the end, I would like to have some perspective or guidance from your side to the builders, to the innovators out in the room. What is that they should be looking forward to when it comes to identity? And that seems like to be a layer for any application, whether you're talking about a DeFi application, RWA, gaming, whatever it is. I think identity seems to be a layer, right? What would be your guidance to the innovators and builders when it comes to adding this layer on their applications? Anyone?
Maybe I'll go first real quick. It's already got the mic. Why not? I think the things that I'm most excited about is a lot of what David and Sandeep talked about, which is like this infrastructure layer. The more coordinated we could be in some sort of Oracle service or bringing that globally, I think is going to be immensely valuable. So Verax being deployed on lots of chains, I think is really important. Having Verax have its own Oracle system built in that's broadcasting across those chains is going to be quite the game changer. In the same way that with Privado ID, you have the opportunity to go through and make those credentials available on lots of different ecosystems. So that's what I'm excited about. I see a ton of siloed data right now and feel like that'll be a huge unlock for us.
Yeah, on my side, I think that I can just say how we thought about making our product, and that would probably go over it. So, the problem identified is how do you make sure that people are unique? And then you start looking at the constraints. And so inside these constraints, you have the fact that Ethereum wallet is public, which sounds like nothing, but it actually means that anyone can see how much I have on this wallet. Now they don't know who I am, but they know the amount that there is on the wallet. So just this element means that you have like two issues behind it. First one, if a criminal find out who is behind the wallet, then he can try to rob you. The other side of the spectrum, you have the government. Not saying that they are criminals, but you have like the US, for example. If you have, I don't know, a sub-bomb token saying that you're Americans, then it means that the US can say like, hey, let's see every Americans who have this sub-bomb token, and then let's go talk to Coinbase and ask the KYC of everyone on the platform who interacted with this wallet. And so for the IRS, for example, that would be a good data to know. So you can see that privacy is super important to protect you from criminals and for privacy with governments. I took the IRS thing for the US, but Russia, China, like you have some countries where you probably want to be a bit more careful. So I would look for products that are privacy based, that is very strong, because if you want to implement identities and do it wrongly, you might kill people. So you might want to be careful with that. Then the user experience. Kyle mentioned 80% of people in less than 5 minutes. That's the main point, right? Like, how can you make sure that you can onboard as many users as possible? You mentioned WorldCoin. Clearly, WorldCoin is not an easy solution to access. I need to find one that is close to me. I need to take an appointment. I need to go. I need to not freak out of giving my eye away. It's not necessarily like the solution you want as like the main verification, right? So on our side, you do a liveness verification. You basically just need a camera in front of you. So it's pretty, it's very worldwide, and anyone can use it. And then you have what we call on our side the reputation, which means that basically if you have zero solution against civil attacks, then I simply bot your system. Then you implement a livelihood solution to make sure that user is human. Then it means that I can't bot you, but I can potentially do the process 1,000 times. It's really a human doing it, so I can do the process. Then it's checking that it's a unique human. So now you remove this guy doing this 1,000 checks by hand, but what you generate is the ability for this guy to pay 1,000 people and to generate their accounts, and then he take it control over it. And so us, we added this reputation thing where we ask the user to re-authenticate, because when you need to manage this kind of industrial process, you can do it one time, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month later, finding this 1,000 guy, 5,000 guy that you paid the other side of the world, because it's often Americans, European, Russian, paying people in Southeast Asia. And so finding these people again is not possible. And so that's how you can really block all that.
So what was the question again? It was what I'm specifically excited about, or
Sure. No. I think any guidance that you would like to give to the builders, to the innovators, in terms of how can they leverage the identity system for their application.
yeah. You guys have covered pretty much everything. I think one of the reasons that we got really interested about on-chain attestation registries was because of the trends that we were seeing. They coming from the background of self-sovereign identity and that sort of like perspective, the trends we were seeing were sort of counterintuitive. It's like people actually want to disclose their data. They want to give it away. They want to violate their own privacy, right? And to a certain extent. And like the reason they want to do that is because there's value in it, and they want to get early access to things, or they want to get promotions, discounts, loyalty scheme points, and so people were more and more people were putting their information on chain, and you can see it in like the rise of the non-transferable, non-fungible tokens or soulbound tokens. So that was just starting to happen. It was a trend that we saw. So we started to see that there is actually value in our collective data, right? If it's managed properly. And if it's not managed properly, then it just ends up being siloed into some big database like Google, right? And then app developers will use that. They'll reinforce it by actually paying Google to access that data because they need like product market fit. They need to kind of do market segmentation analysis. They need to understand their customers. So we figured that like privacy technology and verifiable credentials and on-chain attestations can be used to manage that value in a way that's neutral, independent, transparent, and really for the common good, because it is like our data at the end of the day. So I think for app developers, it's kind of that paradigm shift to like not just thinking about like the API that you can consume directly, but like look on chain and see if how you can distribute your data in a way that it benefits everybody, how you can consume data from multiple sources through these kind of like nexus points like Privado, like Verax and Gitcoin passport and so on. Sorry, passport to XYZ. So I'm still getting used to that.
Takes me a while too. It's okay.
So yeah, and it's about like that thinking about it as like collective public data, right? And kind of like that's why I would push people to start kind of thinking about using on-chain attestation registries and things like that to exchange data, even if it's only between two parties. Think about how it can be used outside it at a later stage.
Yeah, I think also maybe a point that wasn't covered is with regulation, and at least if you want to operate in Europe, you have to do these things. Like next year with Mika, if you are a wallet, for example, and you want to transfer over, I think it will be €1,000 or something like that to an exchange. The exchange to accept these funds has to know the identity of the wallet. So just this means like you have to get familiar with these things. How are you going to do it? Either you use something like MasterCard. I think they built crypto credentials, which is more of a permissioned network, as of course they're in a position to do so. Or you can use some sort of Privado ID or other decentralized solutions. So I think regulations will accelerate this adoption. There will not be on-chain world as we have used to know it. Like it will be transformed, and maybe for the better or for the worse, we don't know. But this is what's happening. So if you want to interact with a certain type of dApps in the future, you will have to disclose your identity. And I agree there are a lot of challenges. I'm also concerned that everyone can see my balance or the balance of someone else. I think Obscuro, for example, is an interesting project. Like we can think about the solutions for the future. But yeah, I mean, I guess every builder, especially if you're building a wallet, you will have to get familiar with these things. There is no choice.
Amazing. So with that, I think there are quite a few takeaways where we talk about regulation, we talk about interoperability, we talk about the uniqueness solutions, and the kind of a user behavior. One of my favorite takeaway is that if the applications are building a more bot-resistant solution, bringing in more unique user, we all expect a better and fair airdrop distributions in the future. With that, thank you everyone for being here.